Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. A real gangster ass nigga plays his cards right. A real gangster ass nigga never runs his fucking mouth, cause real gangster ass niggas don't start fights. And everything's cool in the mind of a gangster, cause gangster ass niggas think deep. Up 365, ayo, 24/7, cause real gangster ass niggas don't sleep. And all I gotta say to you, wanna be, cocksucker, pussy eating pranksters, is when the fire dies down, what the fuck you gonna do? Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Just wanna play video games. Just wanna play video games. おかえり。お腹減った。ご飯。あいたたたたたた。なんで？
お前にムカついたからだ。
I have a holy trinity when it comes to the manga I treasure the most. Yotsuba sits comfortably at the summit, closely followed by Sorimachi. And what a surprise! I've made videos for both of these series already. The third member of this triad, however, is yet to have its day in the sun. Until today. Hina motherfucking Matsuri. Oh yeah. I've done my waiting for this moment. I'm gonna savor this as much as I can. Just wait there for me. Alright, I got my nut in. Let's go. Hinamatsuri, a comedy series written by Masao Otake that ran from 2010 to 2020, is the funniest manga ever made. Its anime adaptation, released in 2018, is also exceptionally funny, but it's not Cromartie High School, so I can only call it one of the funniest. What makes Hinamatsuri such a rib tickler to the point where I'd make such an audacious claim? The answer begins with its concept, which from the word go is already a superb setup to a potentially limitless series of jokes. Gangster Daddy.
Are you in the mafia?
There's no mafia.
Dad! Jesus, what's with you?
Just fooling around.
Yoshifumi Nitta is a middling member of the Yakuza, and one day a young girl from the future named Hina spawns in the middle of his apartment. Hina happens to wield devastatingly powerful psychokinetic abilities, and although she initially appears to be nothing but a parasitic leech that brings financial burden upon Nitta, she soon proves herself to be a useful asset to an underground crime syndicate like the Yakuza. Nitta reluctantly becomes Hina's guardian, sending her off to school as he gradually learns the true meaning of parenting. Yep, it's another one of those. I can hear the ghost of Abe whispering into my ear to have sex already.
I'ma call a couple of hard pipe-hitting niggas to go to work on the homes here.
That's the basic rundown of Hinamatsuri's starting point. Nitta's a shitty gangster that now has to feed a girl that unleashes the powers of a god if she doesn't eat enough salmon roe. But that only scratches the titanium surface of this manga's lustrous greatness. By the time the story reaches its climactic final chapter, Nitta and Hina will be just 2 drops in the pond of brilliantly conceived characters filling in the manga's ensemble cast. Seeing all their stories play out, however, much like the development of anything resembling a healthy relationship for our 2 leads, is going to take time. I'm gonna condense 10 years of laughs, tears, and prayers for Sabu's horrifically violent death into one cohesive video that chronicles the journey. And I hope that when it's over, you'll understand even a fraction of how much love I feel for a manga that is so good, it might genuinely change the course of human history. Okay, it's not gonna do any of that. That title is a lie. I am just bullshitting everyone. You know what they say about comedy? The more you explain the joke, the more views you get, the less funny the joke becomes. Therefore, instead of systematically breaking down Hinamatsuri's multiple layers of gaggery that require extensive research to appreciate in full, I'll simply tell you what makes the humor work so effectively for me. Serious subject matter pushed to its silliest point. When you strip back the funny faces and examine things from a distance, Hinamatsuri's world is a terribly messed up place. NEET and his associates are bringing a little girl with them when they go to extort and beat the shit out of business owners. Hitomi Mishima, one of Hina's classmates from middle school, is forced into becoming a bartender against her will by a sadistic bitch that blackmails her. Another girl from the future named Anzu, who goes back in time to retrieve Hina, ends up fucking homeless and has to pick up cans just to survive. It's a dark, seedy tale of hardship and misery porn where everyone except those who deserve it are punished by the universe. But it works because of how much the ridiculous factors like Hina's stupidity and the general incompetence of the syndicate counterbalance those twisted elements. When an armed robber takes Hina's class hostage and threatens to shoot the children, Hina's autism kicks in and she intimidates the criminal by screaming that she is hungry.
Give me 10 days!
This display of dominance leads to the gunman having an identity crisis. But then the rest of the class starts to rally behind him and give their encouragement, resulting in his decision to change his ways and turn himself into the authorities. This is one of the more laid-back chapters. It's pretty light on the action.
Hey! Hey!
No.
If I had to pinpoint an actual shortcoming of the manga that might be a turnoff for some readers, then the first thing I would single out is the fact that Masao Otake is admittedly not the most talented man to ever pick up a pen. Hinamatsuri's art can suffer from some errors here and there, especially in the earlier volumes where character designs are still being ironed out. Otake realized he wasn't cut out to be the most talented artist in the industry, so he chose instead to be the funniest one. And that's what allowed him to turn a handicap into an advantage. Here's a take for you. Bad art is always better than average art, because it is inherently funnier. Hina is just a potato, and I guess you can call me Seamus O'Brien because I have a soft spot for potatoes. This isn't to make it sound like Hinamatsuri's artwork is just objectively subpar. It actually improves heavily as it goes on, and there are some pages in particular that I would consider visually spectacular, maybe even beautiful. It's the occasional amateur mistakes and bloopers that stand out the most. But instead of trying to hide or downplay his abilities, Otake fully embraces the jank and uses it for amazing humorous effect. I'm a big fan of this panel where the perspective is fucked and makes Anzu look like a T-Rex.
だからなんだよ。
これが私。
Many people might take an initial glance at Hinamatsuri and immediately make a guess about what they're getting into. Oh, goody. It's another parenthood propaganda special about the joys of being a dad. Look at how cute the anime OP is. This is gonna be a hoot and a holler of a time, I can already tell. You're all so fucking naive. It's a common mistake to jump into Hinamatsuri expecting a light-hearted, sentimental slice of life akin to Yotsuba or Sweetness and Lightning. The anime didn't do much to curb these expectations by downplaying the series' darker elements like the Yakuza subplots and instead honing in on the found family angle. What must be understood is that, aside from the characters that are explicitly designed to evoke tender emotions, this manga is a rejection of sentimentality. Every chapter that seems to be setting up for a touching, heartfelt climax inevitably crashes down to earth in a gloriously hilarious fashion. When the character Mao reunites with her former confidant Ikaruga, a woman who cared for her during a traumatic period of her childhood, the only thing she can think about when she meets her family is, damn, this bitch has been fucking. Look at all those babies, your uterus must be in shambles. Nowhere is this anti-sentimentality campaign more prominent than in the complicated, domestic violence-laden relationship that NEET shares with Hina. Best example I can think of, Chapter 38. It's named after them. Kei Ikaruga travels back in time and informs Hina that it's time for her to return to the future where she belongs. There's a bittersweet extended sequence where Hina and Nita share their final evening together, culminating in Nita confessing that the time he spent with her meant a lot despite all the trouble that she caused. However, in a serendipitous twist of fate, it turns out that Hina can't return to the future due to the fact that she no longer possesses the orb required to make the trip. Ecstatic and overjoyed to be staying in the present, Hina rushes home to share the good news with Nita, knowing for certain that he'll be just as thrilled as she is. She reaches the apartment, opens the door, and...
Tadai.
Nita is not the soft-hearted daddy that makes women swoon from how mature he is. He despises fatherhood. His life has been made actively worse ever since this insatiable demon entered it, and he is not shy about letting everyone else know that. When Hina's mind starts to snap from overworking herself to become a better daughter, Nita's first concern is, "Oh God, she might break my vases," and then he proceeds to throw her out the window. The question you may end up asking yourself as you read further into this beyond dysfunctional relationship is, do Nita and Hina actually care about one another? The answer to that is no. They need each other. Nita isn't the monster of the modern era that his fellow gangsters hype him up to be. He joined the Yakuza to quickly amass a fortune to support his family after the death of his father, and in reality is a compulsive, honest individual who'd rather do household chores than break someone's fingers. He's a natural-born house husband, but without a wife or children, his abilities have no outlet or purpose. Hina's spontaneous entry into his life changes all of that, awakening his dormant domestic powers and turning him into the hard-working homebody he spiritually was always meant to be. Hina's need for a father figure in her life needs no elaboration. It's implied that she would either literally starve to death if she hadn't been lucky enough to spawn inside Nita's apartment, or she would have gone on a destructive rampage that destroyed all of Japan. However, she also develops a legitimate attachment to Nita, and discovers more value in having him in her life than just the free food. He's the one who teaches her all about the pleasures and wonders within the world that were never brought to her attention during her childhood as a glorified lab rat. Nita is Hina's pipeline to humanity, the one person actively transforming her from a soulless creature built to destroy the world into a beautiful person that loves the world. Nita may not necessarily love Hina as his own child or display affection in any healthy manner, but over time, he will learn to take pride in seeing her adopt his last name as her own, and won't hesitate for a moment to declare her as his one and only daughter. And if you still think he's an asshole who would gladly throw Hina to the wolves if his peers would let him get away with it, then just remember, he kept that cheap-ass vase Hina bought him to replace the dozens of expensive ones she smashed, and he made sure it looked good as new every single day. Okay, maybe I was wrong about the sentimentality thing because now I'm starting to cry.
こら娘じゃねえ。引き取っただけだ。
娘だよ。
仕方なくだ、仕方なく。
Hinamatsuri is a celebration of humanity, emphasizing not just Hina's personal journey as an individual learning about life, but the journeys of all the other extraordinary faces she meets and influences. The truth about this series is that while it may appear to be a story centered on a single protagonist, it's actually 4 different manga masquerading as one. The chapters are all divided between 4 distinct girls, each with their own incredible life story unfolding entirely in the background of one guy's wacky Yakuza adventure. The second girl of interest after Hina herself is Hitomi, whose character arc can be no better summarized than as suffering from success. Hitomi is a girl cursed with the inability to deny someone's request for help, but inversely is also blessed with the inability to fail at any job she decides to do. This is how she ends up becoming the most talented bartender in Japan at the age of 13, a career that enables her to network with a slew of other salarymen and business officials who offer her just about any job she could want, and she accepts all of them. She's got money, a luxury apartment, more connections than the CEO of the internet, and she couldn't be more miserable.
あれなんで涙が止まらないんだろう。
Hitomi overworks herself to the point of collapse, crying out in despair over her wish to go back to a normal life as a middle schooler, only to be thwarted by fate's generous hand over and over again. It's another excellent instance of the manga twisting the absurd humor out of someone's deeply upsetting and cynical situation. On paper, this is a tale of a young girl being extorted by adults for labor to the point where she enters total mental psychosis, and some could even interpret it as a critique of Japan's culture of overworking in the glorious name of karoshi. When you sit down to read it though, you forget all that disturbing stuff once you see just how far the joke gets pushed. When Hitomi books a trip to America to improve her English, she's given the wrong ticket and ends up at a boot camp in Florida where she's put through physical and verbal abuse at the hands of a drill sergeant channeling R. Lee Ermey. Everything's fine though, because they quickly discover that Hitomi is the most gifted sniper to ever pick up a rifle and is a natural killing machine. Then, once she flies back home, it turns out that the only English she picked up on were the onslaught of curses that us fucking dumbass American shits use, which means she now has a chronic case of potty mouth. Have I mentioned that I adore this manga?
大人で信じられる人なんていたっけ？いなかったじゃない！
Dude, put that thing away! They're like children here!
Hitomi's existence is a contemporary Greek tragedy written by a drunken Koji Kumeda. She's the nicest, most pleasant girl you could ever meet, a personality that she's rewarded for with fame, riches, and opportunities most grown adults could only dream of receiving. And yet, despite getting what she puts in and more, Hitomi will never have what she truly wants more than anything: an ordinary school life with her friends that have no respect for the grind.
リトルソングって知ってる？
Oh no, bro. This jizz.
Remember how I mentioned that Hinamatsuri rejects sentimentality and attempts to subvert emotional poignancy for the sake of irony? Yeah, that applies to everyone that isn't Anzu. Anzu's story is a litmus test for one's humanity. Every tragic circumstance or cruel twist of fate that can befall a girl this adorably sweet will play out before your eyes and make you ask, where's the comedy? All I see is pain. Anzu is yet another psychokinetic girl from the future, significantly more intelligent than Hina, but just as unfamiliar with the laws and customs native to the present. Unable to return home after failing in her mission to retrieve Hina, she finds herself homeless and has no choice but to fall in with all the other Japanese bums living in shit shacks behind the park. The homeless men teach Anzu everything there is to know about saving money as well as the true value of it. And over the course of several months, Anzu begins to view these wandering vagrants as her family, the only people that have ever accepted her into their company as an equal. Unfortunately, the homeless camp is soon uprooted due to construction, and the people that Anzu have grown to love make an arrangement for her to stay with an older couple running a ramen restaurant. It's one of the saddest farewell sequences ever depicted, but the true kick to the testicles isn't until the morning after when Anzu insists on being able to work in the restaurant, never forgetting the lessons her friends taught her about the value of labor and reward. Her new surrogate parents assure her that, as long as she holds on to the skills and memories that the homeless gave to her, neither she nor her forsaken friends will ever be alone. Relieved that her companions aren't gone forever, Anzu cries tears of joy and falls into the loving embrace of her new parents. Her life has been nothing but poverty, hunger, and aimless hardship, but now she's been granted a reason to endure it all. For the sake of those that would give up everything for her happiness, she'll smile each and every day.
ちょっとティッシュティッシュ。
あ、俺にもくんで。
Anzu's storyline is the pinnacle of Hinamatsuri's emotional depth, as well as the one subplot that doesn't try to undercut its sincerity by pushing a gag to its most absurd limits. As much as I appreciate a story that confirms my soul is intact by making me blubber like a baby, I still strongly prefer it when Masao Otake pulls the most laughable material out of a bleak subject. Ikaruga's story is a personal favorite of mine. She runs out of money while stuck in the present and keeps a journal as she slowly starves to death. The pacing of this chapter with the transition from one journal entry to the next is pure gold. It can't get better than this. Ikaruga's hunger-induced delirium brings her to the point where she consumes the food her pet puppy eats. And then she decides that if the dog food tastes good, then maybe the dog itself will taste even better. The next entry is her realizing that eating your pet is wrong, and she regrets it. Ikaruga completely loses the will to go on and quietly accepts death. But it's her inability to watch her pet succumb to the same fate that rejuvenates her will to live, inspiring her to survive and work for the sake of her beloved canine. It's a masterful example of how Hinamatsuri disguises genuine pathos in the cloak of dark comedy. It allows the series to have its cake and eat it too, never betraying its identity by slipping into the sappy schmaltz it could easily become while still managing to hit you with emotional sucker punches. This leads me to the fourth major plotline introduced in Hinamatsuri, and it's one where the dark humor and farcical madness mesh to create a story worthy of Hollywood. Welcome to Castaway, Kung Fu Lolly Edition, featuring Mao the schizophrenic psychic.
はい、あんずちゃん。
Give me that shit!
Mao is the third Esper from the future to be sent back in time, although her mission to deliver the orbs needed for time travel to Ikaruga fails immediately after she spawns on a deserted island. For 153 days, Mao survives on the island by herself. The conditions aren't too bad since she's able to secure food and start fires with nothing but her mind, but the isolation takes its toll on her. She misses Hina and Anzu, the two girls she grew up alongside in the research facility they were raised in, and so she creates two dolls resembling them out of coconuts and replicates their voices. Her impression of Hina is worthy of an Academy Award.
ご飯、ご飯、ご飯、ご飯、ご飯。ちょっとひな、ご飯ご飯うるさいのよ。
Mao can only handle the seclusion for so long, and eventually she makes the choice to abandon her coconut companions and sail on a raft all the way to mainland China. After feeding off of dumpster scraps on the streets, she's taken in by a martial arts school and quickly becomes their top student, impressing the master enough to make her their official spokesperson. However, her longing to reunite with Hina and Anzu hasn't gone away, and it's the arrival of a Japanese rock singer named Atsushi that convinces Mao to abandon her comfort and travel across the sea to find her friends. The martial arts school opposes this decision, and before she knows it, Mao must battle and defeat the people that turned her life around for the better. This, my friends, is the context for the funniest line ever delivered. Mao's story is two chapters. Two chapters devoted to what could easily be the main story of a completely independent manga about a psychokinetic martial artist battling loneliness after entering a foreign land. This is all happening in the background while Hina concentrates on baking a shitty cake made out of salt. That's the most praiseworthy quality about Hinamatsuri. I could single out any of the dozens of secondary characters and break down the amazing adventures they embark on. Atsushi, the lead singer of the band Hina briefly joins while she's on the streets, initially comes across as a goofy but well-meaning guy that dreams of combining rock music with illusion as an art form. Would you believe me if I said that this son of a bitch is more important to the narrative than anyone mentioned by name thus far? You wouldn't? Good, it'll be more of a surprise later on when everything flies completely off the rails. There is not one character given their own set of chapters or ongoing arc that I would consider superfluous. Every single one is squeezed of as much comedic and dramatic potential as possible, and the fact that Otake ties their stories back together in ways you wouldn't expect to see makes the network of bonds being built feel so much more fun to keep track of. It's an unfortunate reality of time constraints that the anime adaptation wasn't able to fully realize or capture the heart of every character's story. but I'm just happy it managed to cover the bulk of the four main girls' respective experiences. One thing the anime wasn't able to dip into whatsoever, and likely never will so long as that fabled second season continues to elude us, is the entirety of the manga's second half, where everything cranks to 11. Set your clocks for the future, baby. We're doing the time skip.
Every birthday, my mom and dad would say, you're another year old.
Yep. Of all the manga to take the perilous gamble, Hinamatsuri actually gave itself the all-grown-up treatment. 3 years have passed. Goodbye, JC Potato Hina. Hello, angsty JK Hina. She gained exactly 3 additional brain cells. If you look closely, you can see them in that shit-eating grin she wears all the time now. I'm like a toddler with a set of jangling keys in front of him when it comes to stuff like this. The concept of inserting a time skip halfway through your slice-of-life comedy manga may seem unnecessary and possibly even gimmicky. But for me, it was the shakeup that made the formula for every storyline established in the first half feel as fresh as a new pair of underwear. Hina is no longer the same deadpan brat we spent 9 volumes getting used to. She has unlocked a genuine personality. She even makes expressions and shit, it's crazy! Not only has Hina upgraded her parasite status by adopting the gamer lifestyle, but she's become more cocky, confidently asserting herself over teachers and enemies that dare to interfere with her quest to do nothing useful for a living. That's not a joke, that's her actual lifelong goal.
It's not just about me and my dream of doing nothing, it's about all of us together.
It's also interesting to see how her relationship with not just Nita, but the entire Yakuza organization has developed in 3 years. She started out as nothing more than the random little girl Nita brought into work who occasionally assisted the syndicate without their knowledge. But now, she's a full-blown weapon. When the boys enter a gang war with a rival syndicate, Hina takes control of Nita's fever-ridden body and makes them shit themselves. She has evolved from a cute autist unable to control her own strength into a bona fide badass. Fuck, she is cool. The Syndicate, meanwhile, have basically decided that she's their own daughter and should be protected as such. If a boy tries to flirt with her or pose a threat to her chastity, they will fucking ice him and make sure the body is never found.
やってらんね帰るおい待て俺がいつそんなこと頼んだ俺がただあの男抹殺したいだけだもっとできるか
The rest of the cast have also experienced a natural progression that fits with their stories. Anzu has moved on from her adoptive parents and opens up her own ramen cart. Hitomi is now the CEO of a marketing agency at age 16, and if you think that's ludicrous, then you've seen nothing. And Mao has partnered with Atsushi and Bald Smartphone Guy to open up a chain of Planet Fitnesses. Otake has mastered the dynamics between his characters, and for the majority of the manga's second half, experiments with how far he can push their stranger traits to the extreme. Mao was well established to be on the kookier side with the whole talking to coconuts thing. But as the series continues, she begins to exhibit even unhealthier habits such as dependency issues and a problem with cyberstalking Hitomi. The tone has lightened significantly from its grittier origins at the start of the manga, but there's still no shortage of disturbing subject matter being explored. It's all still exaggerated for laughs, though, and the ultimate source of joy is seeing the expanding cast of characters come together and celebrate the changes they've undergone. One of the best chapters post-time skip is chapter 75, where the 3 psychokinetic girls go on a trip to the beach together, and we get to see firsthand how their different upbringings have affected the growth of their contrasting personalities. Anzu is too scarred from her frugal childhood to spend any money or have much fun. Mao is desperate to spend as much time with her friends as possible after learning too well how painful isolation is. And Hina doesn't really give a shit about the whole thing. But she still takes pleasure in impressing the other 2 with her abilities and proves herself to be the most inventive with them. This is what I love to see. Hina's usage of her powers in the second half of the story demonstrates how much more sure of herself and creative when it comes to assisting others she's become. Whether it's helping her entire class of morons cheat on their finals, or working a side job as a magician specializing in champagne towers, It makes you feel that same fatherly pride that Nita experiences seeing how much our daughter with the IQ of a koala has matured.
これで私も大人の女。
それは違う。
The most impressive exhibition of psychic abilities, however, is in the new and improved versions of psychokinetic battle sequences. Hinamatsuri's second half introduces the character of Haru, a creepy Shota from the future obsessed with testing his own powers against Hina's. The telepathic fights between these two are fantastic, but the first one is the perfect balance of legitimately epic and hysterically outrageous as Hina takes control of the Yakuza and uses them as human action figures. This manga is no action spectacle, but if he wants to do it, Otake won't refrain from drawing the most satisfying punches ever drawn for the sake of comic violence.
What? Met Kazawa's brother?
We've had our fun and games so far. Hina's a good-for-nothing gamer girl. Nita's gone down in Yakuza legend without even trying. That motherfucker Sabu is not dead at the bottom of the ocean yet, but we're working on it. Everyone is living it up to the fullest for the most part. But now it's all about to take a turn for the what the fuck am I even reading anymore. See, part 1 was all about establishing the preordained destinies Masao Otake had lined up for his characters, mostly for the sake of setting up funny situations and punchlines that would pay off later in their stories. Part 2, however, is where the master plan is revealed. This manga has now become Hinamatsuri, and everything going forward will revolve around the fate of mankind and the power of Rockllusion. Chapter 76 is the grand exposition dump that sets up every remaining event in the story and clarifies everything. Haru presents every central cast member with a message from the future, revealing that in 40 years' time, Atsushi is the one who establishes the Psychokinetic Research Institute responsible for creating all of the espers we've met so far. The reason he was able to accomplish this was through generous backing from Hitomi, who now holds the position of chairman and also still looks 16 years old, God bless the future. Unfortunately, their most unstable subject, aka Hina, loses control and destroys an entire town. An event that leads to a clash between the Institute and the military before escalating into a full-scale civil war. Atsushi pleads innocent to his mistakes, insisting that all he ever wanted was to fuse rock and illusion into one sublime art. This leads the government to theorize that Chairman Mishima deliberately instigated the civil war for the sake of profit, sacrificing countless innocent lives in order to become the most powerful figure in human history. And just when you think the bad news can't stack any higher, it's revealed that Nita's prized vases were all destroyed in the conflict. The loss is palpable beyond description. The only foreseeable way to save the future, according to Haru at least, is to make Atsushi's dream of Rockllusion a reality so that he'll never establish the Institute in the first place. They could just murder him and save a lot of time and energy, but they're good people. This isn't Chapter 1 Hinamatsuri anymore. Killing is unethical. Rockllusion is the one true way.
そんな時、君の動画を見てこれだと思ったんだ。
Most of the final quarter of the manga is dedicated to averting the impending crisis that Haru describes. Yet in traditional Hinamatsuri fashion, nothing goes quite as planned. Hitomi attempts to distance herself from Atsushi and even flees the country to the United States, only to accidentally be instated as the CEO of America's largest telecommunications conglomerate. Oops, what are you gonna do? There are still chapters that disregard this ongoing narrative and focus on the continuing adventures of our favorite side characters. But, you know, it's really hard to forget about all that heavy shit that just got unloaded while we're reading about the karate team's fetish for getting their balls kicked in by Nita's sister. We have more important matters to deal with now, and all Anzu cares about is perfecting her damn ramen recipe.
シャワーの仕方わかる？は？
The introduction of this Save the Future sci-fi narrative has received mixed opinions from fans. Some believe that it's a really well done payoff to 75 chapters worth of material that built up to this grand reveal, whereas others find it to be a bunch of bullshit that got crammed in toward the end to manufacture some drama for the manga's climax. While I don't count myself on the side of people that find it to be a wonderfully executed plot twist that improved a story that didn't need improving, I don't see how you could look at this reveal and not get the joke. If a manga like this was going to have an ultimate puppet master orchestrating everyone's lives in the future to retroactively affect the series' timeline, then of course it would be the dumbass rock dude who wishes he could be reborn as the bastard son of David Blaine and David Lee Roth. This guy finds out he's going to become Gendo when he's older, and his immediate concern is just, oh fuck, I'm gonna go bald. Otake would not allow the implementation of a storyline like this to crash the tone he'd spent so long establishing. It's treated as the absurd, off-the-wall bullshit everyone recognizes it to be. And it's hilarious. Now, hold it. I've been filleting one of my favorite manga for a little too long. It's probably only fair that I address the few legitimate complaints I've had in my mind ever since I first read through it. I can tolerate a heavy-handed lore dump that basically hijacks my slice of life with cute psychic girls, but one thing that's difficult to forgive is everything else we lost along the way. I really hope you enjoy Hitomi, because she's going to be blessed with a lot of chapters the closer we get to the end. I don't hate Hitomi. My problem is that I love so many other characters, but there's only so much panel time that can be allotted to the cast members who aren't relevant to this 11th hour Save the Future arc. Incoming shit taste alert, but by God did I want to see more of Mami. Mami is the best. There were reportedly 2 volumes worth of material written for Mami according to Otake, but his editor decided they were unnecessary. In other news, there will soon be one less editor in this world. I understand that it's not realistic to expect everyone in a cast this large to receive an equal amount of attention, but what really digs under my flesh is when a character I love who isn't cut for time is given no more room to grow. Many of the gags established in earlier chapters have reached their limit by now, and have little to no new material to offer. Anzu and Mao are the most notable examples of this. Both of them have pretty much completed their arcs soon after the second half begins, and for the rest of the manga are essentially repeating a punchline over and over again. Anzu has ramen on the brain all the time, and Mao is a weirdo who thinks dolls deserve human rights. I still love them, but there's not as much to latch onto anymore. Nita, meanwhile, has undergone a sort of soft flanderization. In Hinamatsuri's first half, Nita liked vases. They were his main hobby. He and Hina even bonded over them in an excellent chapter about drug trafficking. But in the second half, they have become Nita's defining characteristic. He is a fully fledged vase sexual. I'm not kidding, there's a chapter where a gold digger tries to seduce him, but all he wants to do is stick his dick in a vase.
Get out of the street, you fucking bum!
Nita's presence becomes so vapid in the later chapters that Hina literally creates a sentient mannequin to replace him. You know, they say when you introduce a robot into the main cast to spice things up, it might be time to start winding things down. Well, this is a mannequin, not a robot. But Otake must have realized the end was coming, and so he went to work on devising an ending. Despite my grumbling, this is still only a couple of piss droplets on a canvas containing the beautiful work of art that is Hinamatsuri. While some storylines may not flow as cohesively toward the climax as others, there is not one chapter in this manga that I would call a waste of reading, which is an impressive feat for a 19-volume series. Mixing up the plot with all this shit about a civil war and the Institute and Rockllusion being the key to all of this may not have been implemented gracefully, but I'm confident in saying that every word of it was worth it for one good reason. That reason would be the manga's finale. And I don't mean to overhype or inflate anyone's expectations, but Hinamatsuri's ending is a strong contender for my all-time favorite. That's not a hard competition, most of them suck ass, but let me tell you why it's so fantastic.
When I hear that rock and roll, it gets down to my soul. When it's real rock and roll, oh rock and roll.
Upon realizing that helping Atsushi achieve his dream would allow her to live out her own dream of living with Nita for the rest of her life, Hina makes the decision to start a band with the intention of putting on the ultimate Rockllusion concert. She takes to learning the guitar, practicing every spare moment she has, and eventually recruits Anzu and Mao as her bassist and drummer. The three girls put in the work and soon successfully brand themselves as an idol group. Atsushi is disgusted to see what they've become. But, in a shocking twist, they're actually an idol group that also plays really good music. With help from Hitomi and Nita as organizers, the stage is set for the performance to end all performances. They even got Radiohead in on this. Unfortunately, circumstances arise and the girls are running late to the final rehearsal.
And the prom's tomorrow!
With the fate of mankind on the line, Hina and the gang embark on a high-speed chase across Japan with Robo-Nita behind the wheel. The chase ends up forcing Hina to summon her inner Josuke, disassembling their entire Bentley in motion in order to bypass a fucking 18-wheeler. Normally, a moment like this would be called jumping the shark, but this is infinitely cooler than skiing over a fish, so who cares? It's incredible. In order to help the girls escape the police, Robo-Nita sacrifices himself and says goodbye to his creator in one of the most heartbreaking scenes in manga history. Rest in peace, Robo-Nita. May 72 vases greet you in paradise. There's no time to shed tears though, because the night of the concert is here. The band is going into this having promised to give the greatest performance in human history, and for once, a promise too preposterous to be trusted actually came through. Hina, Anzu, and Mao work together to give Atsushi the single most rockin' night of his life, using their powers to levitate the audience, summon biblical storms, and anything else that defies worthless mortal logic. Atsushi's god complex ascends beyond Kanye levels as he literally parts the sea of audience members and flies high enough into the sky to kiss the lunar surface. Reading this unhinged chaos page by page for the first time is an orgasmic experience I will never forget. It's a sweeping celebration of everything that makes the series so sensational. And seeing the faces of all the characters we've come to adore watching the show as awestruck as the rest of us makes this truly deserving of being called a climax. Put a try not to come tagline on this thing because I can't do it. This is a send-off for the ages. But it's not over yet. The final 2 chapters jump ahead in time once again to the start of Hina's life as a college student. It turns out that she and an old classmate named Takashi are going to the same school for game design, but soon it becomes apparent that years of training herself to sleep through entire school days isn't useful when you're trying to learn a subject you actually care about. This is the future of the gaming industry. We get an extended Where Are They Now sequence and see that Anzu's finally opened her restaurant, Mao and Atsushi are touring the world at the forefront of the Rockllusion revolution, and Hitomi now has a net worth of over $5 billion. Good for her. Oh, and Adachi here is now a construction worker. That's nice. I'm glad he's doing well after leaving the police force. Things have changed significantly from where they all began. Hina is no longer the dim-witted naked parasite in a pod that she was years before. She's officially a grown woman, breaking the hearts of boys and quietly hoping that life can still be fun even as friends slip in and out of it. Yet even after all the changes and maturing, she still returns home to Nita at the end of the day, and leeches off of him like the lovable bloodsucker she's always been. Nita will never miss a chance to call her a deadbeat that makes his life hell, but he'll also never miss a chance to call himself her dad. You'll never hear me admit that this manga is anywhere near as heartfelt as any of the other famous dad propaganda we know and love. But when Masao Otake hits you with that final montage of all the memories formed by Hina and Nita throughout her growth from child to woman, yeah, that gets me. I'm only human, I can't deny it. Everyone grows up, and every part of our daily life will inevitably change. But that's what makes the few things that remain the same feel so special. Hold on to them for as long as you can, no matter which future you find yourself in. Hinamatsuri is one of those rare manga that you almost regret reading once you're finished with it, because you know deep in your heart that you may never find anything that comes close to matching its genius. Creating something that makes others laugh is a challenge on its own, but creating something that makes others laugh at what should be making them cry and/or feel disturbed is a task that takes a once-in-a-generation talent. All I can say in that regard is thank God Masao Otake belongs to our generation. And thank God he hasn't shown signs of slowing down or losing that edge anytime soon. I sadly lack the ability to pull off an ending as satisfying as what Hinamatsuri was able to achieve. So instead of concocting some clever proverb or sappy line to close this video out, I'd rather leave you with the reading of a short poem that Otake wrote that captures the essence of the manga in the words of the man himself. She invades my home, lazy psychokinetic, cue groundbreaking wit, tragicomedy, work-worn spirit crushed nightly by flat, when's dinner? Yakuza reduced to way of the house husband as whirling subsides, left bemoaning fate. But, for glint of attachment, her soul-saving grace, Hina is a worthless freeloader, but we'll always forgive her, because a father's love is unconditional.
Oh, Yoshime, they don't believe me, but you won't let those robots defeat me. Yoshime, they don't believe me, but you